Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's live stream of Entrepreneur. I am one of the hosts, Jillian. Today, it's just me, no Nate, but we're going to talk about something really exciting. And I have a dear, close personal friend of mine here joining us who has taught me so much about the subject we're going to be talking about today. It's Deanna Lee, and this woman knows how to turn a $100 room vacation rental into a $300 room vacation rental. And we're going to show you how to do that yourself, all within this hour of Entrepreneur. I know, unbelievable, right? Yeah, we're pretty awesome. I know. I know. Anyhow, let's talk about it. Deanna, hi. Thank you so much for being here today. So, what is the very first thing that people can do to get into luxury vacation rentals? Like, what's the number one thing you look for when you're looking for a property to start investing in?
Oh, that's a great question. The number one thing when looking for the next property, well, you know what? I think it all happens in your mind and in your heart first. You have to dream it before you can have it. So you've got to dream the dream, write it down. I wrote down a home on the cliffs by the sea for the last 9 years. So write it down, dream, start envisioning what that will look like. And when we were searching for properties, we were searching to balance different things, balance seasonality with vacation rentals, balance economies, right? Not buying all in one location. So that if it's busy in a summer property here, it can be busy in a winter property here, which stabilizes the occupancy and the revenue throughout the entire year. So looking at different seasons, for example, you could do glamping in southern Utah in the summer and then glamping in Patagonia in the winter and have an endless summer. So those are the things we look at, balancing different seasonalities, different economies, and then having the ability to add value so that we can have that sweat equity right away.
Okay, so you said something really important because like that's really great advice. In other words, have two different properties. But like let's just say that's not in the cards for somebody to start off with two different properties. One in Mexico and one in British Columbia, for example. That's just not in the cards. They can only start with one. They can start with Mexico or they can start with British Columbia. Which one do they start with? But you said something, you said a couple of huge things there. Number one, you talked about mindset. Like you have to envision what it is that you want before you even get started. So what if it is that I don't know what I want? Like how can I get to that vision of the property I should be pursuing?
I think that really dialing in on what the experience is that you're looking for, right? I never knew I wanted a place in the Dominican Republic. I didn't know I wanted a place in Mexico. I knew I wanted the essence of that home on the cliffs by the sea where I could watch the storms come in. It's that essence. What are you looking for? Are you looking for peace and serenity? Are you looking for adventure? Where can you build that now, right? Whether it's just okay, if I want to travel, but I don't have the money to travel, maybe I can just travel to something that's 20 minutes away. Maybe I can buy something, maybe I can build something in my backyard that brings in that extra little bit of income. So it could just be a little accessory dwelling unit ADU in your backyard that brings in that income, that allows you to now have that extra bit of cash flow. So now you can buy the next one. And so really knowing what that essence is of what you're wanting to create, and knowing it takes time, and just, you don't need to know how to do everything. Just what's that next step?
Oh, so that's such a great point. Like you don't have to go all the way to the Dominican Republic or all the way to Utah, and we're going to talk about all those properties that we've got, guys, and what and how Deanna, I didn't pick any of them. She picked them all. So I can't take any credit for that, but how she picked all of them. But I hear what you're saying. It's like you don't have to start with a luxury resort in the Dominican Republic that you have to, travel really far to oversee the construction and stuff like that. You can start with like an ADU in your backyard. So let's talk about that and making that the best possible experience for someone as possible. So how do you turn a regular old ADU in your backyard into a luxury location that people want to go to?
Okay, well, that's great. So now you want to add those amenities, right? So it's in your backyard. If it's a desirable destination already, we did it with our garage. So I took Robert Kiyosaki's saying, I don't know what the saying is, but he always said, if you want a Ferrari, figure out what you can buy that will pay for your Ferrari. Right? We wanted a pool. So how can we pay for that pool? Because obviously that's not an asset, but it's enjoyable. It's the lifestyle we were looking for. So we said, okay, we're going to turn our garage into an ADU or a junior ADU. So doing that and then creating those amenities that make it a luxury vacation rental for somebody else. We're 20 minutes from a ski resort. Everything is, heated floors. It's a garage, but if we have heated floors, that makes it luxury. Being able to add those little details that even if it is just an ADU in your backyard, having those details here, we added a bathtub on the balcony so that people can enjoy sunset while in their deep soak tub. Those are things that don't cost a lot of money and elevate the experience so much so that they now have a luxury vacation in your backyard.
That's such a great point because so just to give everybody a little bit of a background here, and then I'm gonna have Deanna give her background. But my background with working with Deanna is I actually went to the closing, unexpectedly went to the closing at the resort she's sitting at right now, which is Araya Resort in the Dominican Republic. We've done our soft opening. We're actually doing our grand opening on April 30th. We're doing a big, huge event. You can actually join us. If you want to find out more about that, you can go to extraordinarylifeevent.com, but we'll get into that more later. Let's talk about, this property. And I went down there. I didn't realize when I was going there, and Deanna invited me, I was going to the closing. She was actually closing on the property. And this property was amazing. But you said something in the first question that you answered for me. The very last thing you said was, you have to look for that value add opportunity, right? So, despite the fact that this property that Deanna is now sitting in is amazing, it's got an amazing location. It overlooks a cliff. As a matter of fact, I'll show you all a picture if I'm terrible at as this audience knows is I'm not that great at like working the production of this whole entire thing while hosting at the same time. But this is basically what you're overlooking when you're at Araya Resort. You cannot beat the location and the views and the serenity of the area. And also it was built very well. Like there were a lot of elements to it that were built very well. But the thing is you could notice right away where improvements could be made and needed to be made immediately. So guys, that's it right there. That's the thing right there. Where can you add value? But then, okay, so you can see value add. You can see that it's a beautiful location. Doesn't mean it's going to be profitable. And Deanna said something to me that I want you to expound upon while I was there that made me go, oh, I want to get in on this, which is path of progress. You have to look for properties that are in the path of progress. What does that mean, and how can we find our own past progress?
Oh, that's a great question, and to unpack it all right here. First of all, this was amazing when she came to the closing because we were able to collaborate on all of the different things that we could do here. Like she said, we were able to see the things that could be improved upon and dream and collaborate together. And that's what we do. This is a collaboration. And the path of progress is exactly right. That is one of our key factors. It has to be along the path of progress. That's one of our requirements. And what that means is nobody knows it's here yet. I figured out how to time travel. I love that. I figured out how to time travel. I'm 50 years in the past. I used to think it was 20, but it's more like 50 now that I've lived here for a year and a half. But what's so cool is right now it's a fishing village, right? And we're able to bring the tourism here. It's already here. So we want to make sure that it's already a little bit here. If it was unknown completely, then, you're going to take a 30-year risk. But it was already here. The tourism's already here, but it's still a sleepy fishing village where you can go on the weekends and the kids are getting their ice cream from the guy on the motorcycle with the cooler. Like that's the ice cream truck guy. So that's the path of progress that you see there. But also in 2024, Las Caleras, which is where the town where this resort is, was voted the #1 trending destination by Travel and Leisure. So when that happened,
was it really? That's
yeah.
awesome. I don't think I knew that.
Yep. So that just we knew in our heart that this was the path of progress. We're at the end of a peninsula. Las Terrenas, Cabarete, Puerto Plata, all these places, Cap Cana, Punta Cana, that everybody knows in the Dominican Republic, those are all built out. And we're at the end of the Samana Peninsula, where we have 7 beautiful beaches, all different, all Caribbean white sand. You're looking at this when we were there together, right?
Yeah, this is
son, brother. Yeah.
Yeah, this like Deanna's saying all these things, and this resort is. I will say this about the resort itself. The resort itself, by the way, is not the only project we're doing. We're going to tell you how to do this anywhere, guys. So stick around. This isn't just a sales presentation for a ride, as much as I would love it for it to be. But the thing about when we went there with it takes quite a bit of time to get from the Santo Domingo airport. So you're curious, like, why is this taking so long? Why would we invest anywhere there? And I'm going to tell you, this beach is one of the many reasons why we invested there, because this beach, I live in Puerto Rico. I know good looking beaches when I see them. I'm surrounded by them here in Puerto Rico. This beach is probably the nicest beach I've ever been on. I know that sounds crazy, but it's totally true. That sand is crazy soft. It's beautiful. It's white. The water is so clear. It's so calm. It's good for kids. It's safe. It felt very safe to me, and it's inexpensive. Like, they have chairs right there on the beach. You don't even have to bring your own chairs. So I thought, this place is something nobody knows about, and that's what we mean when we talk about path to progress. We also hiked to waterfalls and things like that. This
That was an adventure. Glam venture. You got to be adventurous for this place, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And guys, I want to remind you, for anybody who's watching right now, to put your questions in the comments. We will get to them. I do promise that. So path to progress. So we're talking about Dominican Republic. We're talking about Araya Resort and how we saw the path to progress there. But you've seen the path to progress in another place, because the experienced real estate investor in me wanted to tell Deanna to slow down. We're the same age, so and probably have the same level of experience, but I still was like, I was getting a little nervous, because while we're sitting at the closing table for this property, Deanna is trying to get a contract for another property in Utah, of all places, right? So in between Bryce Canyon and Zion National Park. Let's talk about that. What did you see in that property?
Yes, so we know that the pivot, it was time for the pivot. I've been in the vacation rental space for quite some time. And you start seeing the writing on the wall, right? Everybody's like, ooh, Airbnb, it's the new buzzword, and everybody's doing it, and all the, people were doing it as a hobby, and things were starting to become oversaturated. And when you're paying attention to your numbers and the details, you see the trends shift. And so we knew it was time to make that pivot, the art of the pivot, right? And the highest searched type of property online at the moment, and even still, was unique properties, glamping, right? These buzzwords that you're hearing now, the glamping, the tiny homes, the tree houses, really everything we have here, because these are our tiny homes along the hill overlooking the jungle. Well, this property that we have in southern Utah is also tiny homes overlooking a beautiful sunset, overlooking a canyon. But what made us decide to go for this was that we've got 123 acres in what I call a golden triangle. We're right in the middle of Brian Head Ski Resort, Bryce Canyon, and Zion National Park. So you've got to look for, not only would it be a pretty spot to build something, it's like, no, are people coming here? And that one was so important, because it is that golden triangle. We don't have to get people there. People are already going to Zion National Park, but they don't go to Bryce because it's a 3-hour drive, round trip, whatever. But we're right in the middle, so they can day trip to all the different places, which creates that experience, which has them stay for an entire week or two, because this can be base camp and they can explore. And my dream, my passion, what I love to do is I love to create beautiful destinations where people can come and have amazing experiences. And that's what this place was to me. That's what this place in Samana is, and that's what Southern Utah is. And when I had the opportunity to buy both a mountain property and an ocean property, I couldn't choose, right? Who could choose? I can't choose. So I just wanted both. So we figured out how, and actually that's how I met you in the first place, was figuring out how can I have both.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And then the other part of it is okay, so now we have Araya in the Dominican Republic. We are breaking ground this spring in Utah, but what's bringing in the dollars now, and how is it that Deanna was able to leverage those properties? So you have multiple other properties. Let's start with the more tropical ones, because I want to talk about the not so tropical one. I have pictures.
Oh yeah, sure, sure. Tropical ones. So we have a property in Hawaii, and that is our queen bee. That's a season that isn't really affected by seasonality. So we really want to make sure that we have like those properties that bring things in all year long. So Hawaii is just one of those places that everybody wants to go to. We had the opportunity to buy there, so that was the first vacation rental that we bought. We owned other properties, long-term rentals that we've converted, but that was the first vacation rental. And then Mexico, we have a handful of properties in Mexico, and people would ask, because that's along the path of progress, like we've talked about, right? So Mexico is tropical, along the path of progress. You cannot go beyond Tulum. Tulum is surrounded by a biosphere and a national park where the Tulum ruins are. You can't go any farther. That is definitely the end of a path of progress. Same as the peninsula, you just fall into the ocean, right? So those are the things we looked at. And then people say, well, why do you have more than one? And if you're going to take the time to build a team and keep that team happy, you want to keep them busy, and we want to be profitable. And so we ended up purchasing, I believe we have 5 in Mexico. And then you're like, well, then don't you compete with yourself? So we made sure that each one was a little different. So we have a condo hotel in Playa del Carmen, and we have a penthouse and 2 penthouses in Tulum. One has a rooftop pool. We have a garden home that has a backyard. It's more of a home, and it has its own private pool. So having things that don't compete with itself, that offer something unique along the end of the path of progress that people can get to fairly easily. Of course, this one's a little farther away, but in Mexico, you're an hour, 2 hours from an international airport, depending on, and now we have 2. So that not only being along the path of progress, but also knowing what's happening in the government. So when we bought these properties, we knew that there were plans to finish. One of them is a mile from the beach, but there was a road to the beach that was unfinished, and it was Mexico, so it could be 10 years before they finished it. We know, but the good news was they finished that just 2 years ago when we were already, now we're just a mile from the beach, and we got it in a really good price because that hadn't happened yet. The Mayan train was coming, but wasn't happening yet. Tulum Airport coming, but not yet.
Those
So we
those
bought
are all
these
path
spots.
to progress things. All
Those are
path
all
to progress. Yeah.
exactly, and all of them happen. So we bought with the intention that they will happen, knowing that they may not, and then they did happen, and so that's a win for us. So those are the tropical properties: the Hawaii, the Mexico, the Dominican Republic. Those are our tropical.
Now, Hawaii is in the United States, but I imagine you have some of the same challenges in Hawaii as you would in Mexico and the Dominican Republic, only because it's so far from
Mhm.
mainland US. So Hawaii has the challenge of it's US, but it's so far from mainland, so it's difficult for you to get to and to manage. And then you have a whole different set of challenges in dealing with a second or third world country that, has a different language even. You got to get your Spanish on in both the Dominican Republic and in Mexico. So, I will say this about Deanna. She's extremely ambitious, a little more ambitious than me. And that's a great thing. And it's a great thing, to be honest. It hasn't steered us wrong yet, except for the fact that her optimism sometimes gets in the way of reality.
Yes, and that's where I stack my team. So I have an amazing team, right? I have an amazing team of advisors. I have an amazing team of people that are bringing me back to earth And also, I'm the idea person, and everybody on the team is the ones that figure out how to actually make it happen. So
Right,
you got to
right.
surround
No,
yourself
yeah.
with people that can make it happen. And they will also tell me no, and they're like, "No, Dee, don't do that." And I'm like, oh, "Okay." So I also listen. So as ambitious and optimistic as I am, I have said no to things. I have even when I was in love with them, because they do also have to make sense on paper.
Yeah, because okay, so this house that I'm sitting in now, most of you well, maybe not most of you, but many of you who've watched my live streams before know about this house. I live in Puerto Rico. It was an abandoned house that was owned by a bank. And, I budgeted like $50,000 to rehab the thing and 6 months. And Puerto Rico's, a US territory, and it took me over a year to rehab the thing and $200,000. So I went way over budget, my expectations. So when I met Deanna and she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get this resort banged out in 6 months," I said, "No, you're not." Cool. But but it kept her totally motivated to keep going, and, I just knew what the situation was, which is why it's so important to get really experienced investors for any of you who are thinking about going out there and doing this, like, you have to align yourself with people whose expectations can be tempered and their expectations can easily be changed at any time, because that is one of the, especially when you're dealing with, um foreign countries. What would you say the hardest thing has been in dealing with, say, the Dominican Republic, for example?
Oh my goodness. Pick a day. I would say, gosh, the hardest thing. I don't even know. You got me stumped. There's a lot of challenges, and I would say that the hardest thing is the mindset. Be staying in that high frequency to where things work, things will work,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
figuring out how to make them work when they don't, and being very flexible when they don't, because there are many times that they don't work out, right? There's all sorts of things. So basically, I could either cry or I could laugh. And so we laugh a lot here. Today we had a frog come out of the faucet. We live in the jungle. It happened. Like, well, that was fun. Little things that are. So what? Let me see. So with some of the big things to expect, like the big things would be, I think, the amount of time it takes. The hardest thing with this project is being attached to the deadlines, being attached to the timeline. So the ways that I was able to overcome this, because you start to doubt yourself. You're like, okay, well, I said I was opening November 27th, 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't happen. And then it was December 27th, and then it was April. And my husband said, you know what? The only thing that is stressing you out are these arbitrary deadlines that you made up. Stop
You
making up
made, yeah,
deadlines.
exactly.
Yeah, I made those. I made those deadlines. Don't make up deadlines. Of course, you need to have goals. You need to have targets. Like, okay, by this time we're opening. Our soft opening is going to be March 1st. Like, we got to do it. We can remodel this place for 10 years, but we got to be profitable at some point, right? And so, but also having those very transparent conversations with the investors of like, hey, this is taking longer than it takes, and finding the investors, like you just said, that are like-minded, that are experienced enough and are able to take these pivot, these moments where they're like, yeah, of course, like you knew I wasn't going to get it done in 6 months, but you were going to let me try. And I
I
tried,
laughed as I
and we
wrote the
did.
check.
Exactly. You're like, okay, Deanna, but it takes as long as it takes. And so as long as we know we're on track, I would say the attachment to the timeline, and then making myself wrong when I didn't hit that timeline. As long as you know you're doing everything that you can to get things done, and things within your control. You can't control when the container shows up. You can't control when the sauna is somewhere in this country, but it's not at my hotel. You can't control these things, right? You can't control if contractors show up. You can't control that it rained for 90 days straight this last fall.
That was hard.
So
Yeah.
that's why we didn't open in January. We opened in March because it rained for 90 days. Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
So those are, being able to release your attachment to the timeline, stay in a good mindset. And then be able to be transparent and communicate with the investors so that they know what's happening. So then I can have that peace of mind to say, okay, everybody's clear on what's happening. I'm doing everything that I can and that I know to do, and it's going to happen. You don't fail unless you quit. I'm not quitting. We're like you said, the soft opening now, grand opening for the event. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah, but that's right, guys. So I'll just mention again, I'll do a little commercial break. April 30th, we're going to be doing our grand opening at Araya Resort. I'm going to show you another property we have that I actually visited and stayed at, and I can tell you all about that as well. So if you do want to join us for that grand opening, and you can even look at properties, we'll take you around and look at properties yourselves that you can look at. Or you could talk to Deanna about investing with her directly. Don't talk to me, talk to her. If you want to join us for the event, you can go to extraordinarylifeevent.com and join us, because we're not just, it's not just a grand opening. I want to be very clear. This is an event that I'm personally hosting, where we are going to do some masterminding. We're going to do some business planning. We're going to go on some adventures, like some really cool adventures, and we're going to relax by the pool in Araya. Actually, I'm going to show you this pool because it is pretty cool. The pool, this is
Well, and let me tell you,
the
while
place
you're
that I
pulling
prefer.
that up, so something else to plug is I am a part of that mastermind, right? Like, this is being a part of Jillian. I met Jillian because she taught a class on how to raise capital. I didn't know
Yeah.
how to raise capital. Jillian helped me take that first step. I was taking her class when she said, I need to go somewhere to get my passport. I'm like, come to the Dominican Republic. You're only 60 miles away. Come on over, right? So being a part of a mastermind with like-minded people, that's where these opportunities come from. So
Yeah.
I love being a part of this mastermind for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the Infinity Edge pool at Araya. That's the ocean there in the background. It's absolutely gorgeous. I want you guys to join us, but I want to pivot for a second and emphasize that you guys can do this kind of investing no matter where you are. You just have to elevate and do those things that Deanna said, which is make it unique. She has 5 properties in Mexico, right? 5 properties in Mexico that are not that far from each other, but she has those 5 properties because she has to keep her staff busy, right? Well, she can only keep her staff busy if those properties have people staying in them. So how can we get people to stay in them? We have to have some kind of unique feature, some unique value proposition in each single one. And I'm going to show you right now. This is the property. I'm going to just share my screen on this one. I told you guys I'm not great at producing at the same time. Okay, so this property here, this is a massive lake in Oklahoma. This is actually out in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. What is it? It begins with an H. What's it called?
Hulbert.
Holbert. Yeah. So
Hulbert. Hulbert.
Holbert. So those are my 2 kids right there. I don't know if you can see them walking down to the dock. And this is a little boathouse down here. And what this property is, and you're probably going to see a lot of the same. That's me relaxing.
I
There's
love
my
it.
son's at one of the many fire pits that are on the property, getting ready to have some marshmallows. But the great thing about this property, I think I actually took a video, is it's 3 homes. It's 3 homes on one campground, essentially. And I wouldn't say there's anything you would look at the outside of these homes and go, this is remarkable. It's when you step inside and it becomes remarkable. And not only does it have upgraded, like an upgraded faucet, it sleeps like 12 people in this one house. This one house sleeps 12 people. But look at things like this, like the supplies for you to have s'mores for your kids so you don't have to run to the store. Um, Popcorn, tons of board games. Like, to me, those are the little things that you can put in your vacation rental that costs you no a pack of Uno costs like $6, right? It costs nothing. These are just more pictures. Look at my son fishing. There's fishing poles available. Just all of those things you need to have a successful Airbnb, um, that people wanna come back to and they tell their friends about. So this was
And that's
this
what
was
we
a
have here. So something to
What's that?
mention there while you're talking. Sorry to interrupt. Something to
Yeah.
mention there
No,
while
go
you're
ahead.
talking about that. That's what we have here is even though where is Holbert, where is Wagoner, where is this Lake Fort Gibson, right? We're an hour east of Tulsa, but people that are coming are people who grew up camping at this lake, and now they're our age, and they're like, well, I still want to go to that lake and have those same experiences with my family. But I don't want to pack the RV. I don't want to camp. I want to stay someplace nice. We're one of the few that offer that. And we have people that are coming, they're spending their third summer this year. They come every single year for their family reunion, and they will do that for the rest of their life, their kids' lives. Because what we
Yeah.
do is we create a place for them to have amazing experiences. They can go to a hotel if they want a room and a bed. It's about the whole experience.
No, this is an experience. Like I said, there's multiple areas outside to sit. They have all the accoutrements. You don't have to drag your fishing poles with you. You don't have to bring, I mean, you do have to bring your own groceries, but you don't have to bring board games. You don't have to pack up the car with floaties or anything like that, and you don't have to bring your beach chairs or your beach furniture. It's all right there, and, like, it sounds like I'm selling you this property in Hulbert, but I'm telling you, those are the things that keep people coming, give you good reviews, and, the other thing, I am an owner, right? I am an owner in this place, but I got the full treatment, and by that, what I mean is when you book, there are automated emails that will come to you every day during your stay of, "Hey, I hope things are going well. This is how you get in contact with me if anything's not going well. Here are some things you wanna know about the area. This is where you need to go if you wanna do this." Like little touches like that make you feel seen as a guest, and you can do anywhere. So, for example, I just got an opportunity the other day to invest in another property in this area. The property was super inexpensive. It made me realize that this area is not, I wouldn't even call it the path of progress, but this property makes it worth it to drive out of your way to go and spend time in a location. So you don't have to do this with a super expensive property in a super expensive area.
Well, and that goes back to you're building an ADU in your backyard. It's out of
Mhm.
our way, maybe, but it's not out of the way of the people that live in Wagoner and want to go to Holbert. It's not out of the way of the people, even, I mean, most of our people come from Dallas, Texas. It's like a few hour drive for them, right? So it's not out of the way for everybody. And so that's where something to think about is it may be out of the way for us. But I mean, you were driving Route 66 across the country. Like it was like, oh, perfect. We're just going to drop over here and check out this property, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. That's exactly what I was doing. I was driving Route 66, so I drove up to Tulsa and jumped off and drove over to the property. And no, look, it is a vacation area, right? There's a lot of things in the area. This is a massive lake. Unfortunately, at the bottom of that lake lies my son's iPhone. So
that's
if
one of the
anybody's
benefits that we offer is if you want your 15-year-old to pay attention to you, we'll take the phone and we'll throw it in the lake.
Yeah, we'll hire somebody to do that for you. Oh my god, I've never seen him panic or look so sad in his entire life. Oh, it's so terrible. And we drove all the way around town trying to find somebody who might have like a magnet, like an underwater magnet or something. And we even went and bought like a snorkel mask so he could try to dive to the bottom of that lake, ladies and gentlemen, that lake right there is very, very deep and very, very peaceful, but it's also very deep. So that poor iPhone is gone forever and ever and ever.
But then they started playing, right? That's the experience is now both of your sons were playing together instead of one on the phone and one, please play
Yeah,
with me,
exactly.
able to play hide and go seek and have some of those amazing experiences that we want to see.
Absolutely. So and it was an amazing experience. I've never seen an armadillo before out in the wild. So that was super exciting for me. I don't know. I get entertained pretty easily. So, okay. So I want to review real quick because I feel like we've dumped we've done a big brain dump here. And, one thing I wanna add to this conversation is, Jillian, when Deanna told you, I'm because I've been asked this question before, because Deanna and I've told the story before about how she was very ambitious about how her timeline on the resort, and I was not as optimistic. how were we able to survive that? How are we able to survive such a long deadline? Well, good financing.
Yep.
You can overcome almost anything if you have good financing. Why don't you talk about that a little bit, Deanna, if you can? If you
So
can, I don't know if you can.
absolutely, absolutely. So one of the most important things is your financing. It is your structure, your financial structure, and covering the downside. So making sure, and I do this because it's financially sound, but also it keeps my mind chatter quiet. If you cover the downside, then you're able to go for the big dreams. Be able, it's okay when the things hit you sideways and you're like, I didn't see that coming. It's okay because we're prepared for that. So having a risk mitigation plan in place that covers anything that could possibly happen, right? The Black Swan event, when that thing happened in 2020, what was your plan, right? Those things that can happen that you don't see coming, but if you cover the downside, then that makes it so that you can sleep at night. I call it, so one is reserves. Of course, you have to have reserves in the bank. I call that a sleep well at night account. You have to have reserves in the bank so you have that staying power. Because if, like I was saying before, you don't fail if you don't quit. But also you have to have that staying power, that financial foundation. Also paying, that's one of the reasons for my capital raise as well, was bringing on everybody who can be owners in this portfolio, was also to be able to pay off any properties that have a higher loan constant. What that means is that they are highly leveraged versus when you have a lot of equity. And well, I'm sorry, let me reverse out of that. The high loan constant means that it's only amortized over a 5-year period. And so then you have a higher mortgage payment. So being able to pay off anything that has a high loan constant, putting that back in the pockets of the investors instead of the pockets of a developer or a bank, and then using leverage, good financing, for example, like Hawaii has a 3% interest rate, like those sort of things where you have really good financing and equity so that you're not over leveraged. So, right, keeping yourself at that 70%. Not, I mean, I know that some people say no money down, get in this property at 95%. If you get into this property and you're leveraged at 95 or 100%, if anything changes in the economy and you have to sell, that's when you lose. You don't lose if you don't have to sell. So
No.
worst case scenario, nobody travels ever again. Like that thing happens again that happened 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, and that's what made it so possible for Araya was that, I mean, again, one of the many reasons I was like, I have to get in on this deal was
Yeah.
the financing that Deanna happened to work out. I knew like that's your biggest risk point as a real estate investor. A lot of times is the risk of foreclosure. She
Mhm.
practically eliminated the risk of foreclosure, so it
Yeah.
made it's like, okay, well, if this doesn't work out right now, we can get it to work out later. I mean, there's obviously things you can't, famine, pestilence, the four horsemen of the apocalypse. You can't
Yeah.
work around those, but you can work around almost anything else. And
Exactly.
so
So like I was
yeah,
saying, was if you don't have that risk of foreclosure, then suddenly everybody stops traveling. Well, maybe you're not profitable, but you have the reserves to maintain the property. And now all of the investors, we just go and enjoy the properties that we have until people start traveling again. Like when you go
yeah.
to worst case scenario and it's not that bad, that's when you know this is a good opportunity.
Exactly, exactly. So, I mean, this is the thing, and then you have to keep, I mean, the great thing about this, for you guys out there who are thinking about doing this too, what I would say to you, because this is what I've done for myself, is go invest in things, invest in locations you want to go yourself, and it will work itself out because at some level you'll get some kind of enjoyment about it. It's like, okay, I live 126 miles from the Dominican Republic. That makes sense to me to invest in that. And then, then I found out, wait, I don't get to just invest in this, but I get to invest in properties in Mexico. I love Mexico. One of my favorite places to go in the world is Xcaret, which is in Playa del Carmen. I've always wanted to go to Tulum. My husband loves going to Hawaii, and then I got the opportunity to go to Oklahoma. Then she told me, "Oh, we're going to buy this property in Utah." Let me tell you something. She's not kidding when Deanna says that we don't even need to do anything in Utah. We don't have to wait for a path of progress because it's already there. During COVID, I went to Zion and we couldn't hike any of the trails because they were all sold out. You had to make reservations months in advance to just go hiking in Zion. So we were able to drive through. I was lucky to get an Airbnb, and it was crazy expensive for this dumpy little house outside of Zion. So now imagine taking your kids to a glamping location and you can day trip to Zion and day trip to Bryce from one location. I didn't have to be sold on that. That's a winner.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
winner, right? So, if you can get good financing on these places and they're places you like to go, you've already won. You've already won. And if you're leveraging assets, I've been inspired by all this too because, I have this pool in my backyard that I've rehabbed and I thought I need to start leveraging the assets I already have. So like to your point about the ADU, I'm going to start renting out this pool I already booked 2 parties. I booked a wedding and a party,
Perfect.
and I've only been
I love
advertising for
that.
like a month. So,
Yeah.
yeah, just start leveraging the assets you already have, and where you are, and you can get going. And you just have to do that little bit extra. It doesn't have to be a lot. It's board games, right? Board
Yeah.
games, stuff for
It
s'mores.
is. It's
Those are all the
monopoly.
little bit
Yeah.
extra.
Yeah, yeah, it is monopoly. Buy the single family homes and then buy the hotel, right? Like this
Yeah.
is monopoly. But I know I can hear it, even though I can't see any of the questions that are coming through. But I know people are like, how do I get financing for that first one? Or like me, I was a real estate investor and a realtor. I didn't have a W-2 job. How do you get financing for some of this stuff? Well, one of them, we did one of those DSCR loans. We did the debt service coverage ratio where you don't have to qualify on your income. You actually qualify on the income that the property will bring. There's so many tools out there that we
Yeah,
can
as a
use
matter
as
of fact,
people.
like, that's another thing. Talk about your background, Deanna, because I think people are gonna find this kind of incredible once you tell them, like, how you even got started.
Sure, yes, because a lot of people just say, well, of course you were able to do that because you come from money. I'm like, I do? I don't actually. People assume that when you're in a place like this that you must. But what it is that okay, my background was I bought properties. My first home that I bought was I was a single mom and I bought a duplex. So the first thing I always tell everybody is your first home is not your dream home. Your first home is a multifamily. I tell my kids this, my assistant this. I tell everybody that your first home is a multifamily, whether it's a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex, or you can put a mother-in-law apartment ADU in the basement. That's your first one. Your second one can be your dream home, but this one, because you guys, you can get in for 2.5% down or zero money down. Or my first one I bought was a duplex, and I was a waitress. But that was back, of course, it was great because we could do stated income back in the 2000s. I'm aging myself now, but anyway, that was amazing. They actually paid me to buy that first one. I think I got $1,000 check. So my first property was a duplex. That one paid for itself as I was a single mom and a waitress. From that one, then I bought my second one. That one had a flood in the basement. We turned that into a vacation rental property, into an Airbnb. Then the next thing I did was I like houses for free. For me, I have actually not paid, I have not put 20% down on any of those first properties that I bought. I always did the burn model where you buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. You buy it, like we talked about adding value. You can do that on the small scale, you can do it on a big scale. If it needs a little bit of fixer upper, then you purchase it. You buy, I mean, I'm not going to teach the burn model, but that's how we did it. So I actually have, up until Mexico, up until we started purchasing Mexico, I never had 20% down. Hawaii we bought as a second home, so they had a 10% down program. So up until I think it was maybe our 15th property that we have ever bought was the first time I ever put 20% down. So people, a lot of times our mind likes to tell a story is like, I have to have 20% down to buy my first property. It's going to take me a lifetime to save $100,000. That's how I felt. That's how I still feel
Yeah.
sometimes. Like, how do people save up $100,000 to buy that first property? It doesn't seem possible. And so that's where you get creative, and that's where you start learning about these other ways to put some sweat equity into it, put some work into it. And and people say, oh, you're super risky, you're not very risk adverse, you're willing to do things super risky. That comes back to my risk mitigation plan and covering the downside. I'm actually quite risk averse because my mind gets too chatty. I prefer to have a quiet mind, which means we cover the downside. Now we're not taking risk as much. Everything in real estate has inherent risk, right? But if you cover that downside, you're not taking as much risk, and you can take those big, bold moves knowing that everything's covered.
Yeah. Yeah. And this doesn't mean you're not going to lose or whatever, but if you
No,
carefully plan and leverage appropriately, and that's really what it comes down to is you find those diamonds in the rough, you find those things in the path of progress, you find those things where you can see the value add without going like, "Well, I need to take it down to the studs and the foundation," right? Like, that's real like Araya had good bones,
yeah,
right? It had great bones, but it didn't have any stair railings. Every time I walked up a set of stairs, I thought I was gonna fall over the
it
edge.
was
They were on
terrifying.
so it was like, ding, 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 ding. I could see the value added. It's going to cost us nothing to put that in the place. They had painted the pool a very ugly color, like real easy to fix that. You empty the pool. Well, actually, uh, that was.
Yeah, you find out that you don't think you have to remodel the studs until you get into the project. But
I, I know, true, true. But most of the structure's there.
yeah,
Most of the structure's still there. So, and you
yeah.
guys, you can join us, but I'm going to give the website where you can join us on April 30th. That is the extraordinarylifeevent.com website. You can go there. But I really want to talk about, those people who can't make it to the Dominican on April 30th, although you all should. You should make a concerted effort. It's gonna
Yeah,
be fun. It's gonna be a
it'd be
good
amazing.
time. You'll learn a lot. And,
And go on
another
adventure.
person yeah, another person I invest with, very heavily is Jeff Holst. He's gonna be there, and he'll tell you all about his investments too while we're there. Um, but let's talk about something else for a second, because let's just say somebody's watching and they go, "I don't have time for this." How can they get in touch with you to figure out how they can get involved in all the properties we just talked about? This is not a solicitation to invest, by the way. I want to be very clear about that. You are welcome to contact Deanna if you're interested in hearing more about whatever opportunities she might have. But how can they do that?
Great question. And thank you for that. It is simply collectivedestinations.com. And that's plural, destinations, because why have just one? So collectivedestinations.com will tell you all about the portfolio, what we have, and any of those places you can book a call with me. And it will be with me. So you can talk to me directly, not with somebody on my team. And I'll answer any questions you have. And really, I found that there's a few different type of investors I end up talking with. They're the people that don't have the time for this. They would love to own all these properties, and they just don't have I mean, it took me 15 years to build this. They don't have the 15 years to do it, or they don't want to, right? That's where it's purely, we take care of the headache for them. That's for that. And then there's others who may just want to do it themselves. I love this one because you can not only invest with collective destinations, but you can also learn from me. We've created this, and I'm an open book. So instead of reinventing the wheel, you can do it simultaneously. So you can have your money working here while you're invested in collective destinations, simultaneously be buying your first vacation rental and second and third, and work with you all the way. So then now you're getting that, basically any information that you need on how we're running this, you can run your own. So you're having two different, your money can work for you in two different
Right,
pathways.
absolutely, right. And guys, also, I want to encourage you if you're like, I don't want to invest, or I'm not interested in I still want you to encourage you to contact myself or Deanna for that matter, especially if you are able to come up with a property that we might be interested
Yeah.
in acquiring, because we're still in acquisition despite these projects. We're still in
Mhm.
acquisition. As a matter of fact, a group of us met about buying a property in outside of Tuscany, Italy,
Yep.
so we're still looking to expand the
Yep.
portfolio. So if you have something that you think might be interesting to us that's in that path to progress, we're
Yeah.
interested in hearing about it. I always want to go on vacay, and I definitely want to go on vacay at my own properties, and so should you.
Exactly.
So yeah.
And there's some cool things, right? Like there's so many programs that for just one person, it may be too hard to take on, because they not only want you to buy the house in Italy, they want you to bring like the whole community with you. They want you to develop the whole entire town. But as a group, as a collective, as a group of us, we will have the funds to do that, where one person can't do it as much. So it gives us so much more ability to do something like that when those opportunities are there, but they're at the higher
Yeah.
scale. So that's pretty cool too. Hey, and in the meantime, I was trying to find out how to open a boutique hotel in 45 days or less, and there wasn't a single class on it. So I decided I'm going to be teaching a course on how to open a boutique hotel in 45 days or less. I got it all. We're just taking notes behind the scene, but
Nice.
so that's another reason, like, of all the things we're doing, I'm like, I'm already doing it. So we've been documenting it and all of that. So it will be coming one day.
That's
I'm not
so
putting
cool.
timelines on anything, but we are creating that too.
Yeah, so go to last collective destinations, reach out to Deanna that way, and also check out the resort IG at araya.resort. Uh, does
Please.
anybody have any questions? I know there's people, you guys are watching. I see you watching. I
You're
can
being
see you. I
quiet.
can see the little eye thing that shows me how many people are watching. So I'm assuming some people have questions. So you want to put those questions in the comments below. They will pop up for me no matter where you're watching it. This is live streaming in Last Life Ever in Entrepreneur. This is an Entrepreneur live stream. Okay. But I decided to stream it in several different places. That's my prerogative. I'm the host. I can do whatever I want. So if you have any questions, now is your time because we're winding down and we're going to end. We're going to end. I'll give you one last picture. See, this could be you. You could be here, or you could
And
be
we do,
here.
we create these, when you were here, Jillian, we created so many curated expeditions, right? Because they
Yeah.
have the ones that they offer all the time, but they're like taking you 45 minutes or an hour from the resort. I'm like, dude, we have the prettiest place right here. So we have a jungle hike that takes you from here, from this beautiful pool, you hike down through the
So sorry,
jungle.
I'll go back to it. Hold on.
Yeah,
There we
no,
go.
it's
From
fun.
this
No,
place.
it's
Yeah.
from that pool. You hike down through the jungle. It takes 10 minutes. You end up at this cliff, and then you can hike a little farther. And there's a little cenote, a little secret Cueva del Agua. There's a secret cave that you can go swimming in. And then you hike a little farther, and you end up at this beautiful fronton beach. And so there we welcome you with the picnic lunch, right? So we love to curate experiences. So that may be, we don't know which experiences we're going to have, but that may be one of them that we do.
Yeah. And the great thing is, so this is our pool, brand new color.
Yeah,
Nice and beautiful
much
now.
better.
It was so ugly before. It was not good looking before. It's nice. I mean, it was good enough. It was still the infinity edge. It was the same shape and
Well,
everything.
that was the picture you had on your when you first posted when we first bought this place. You had that bright blue.
Oh
Remember?
yeah. Yeah, it was something. And then all of the rooms are actually these little huts. It's not one big building. Let me show you this. So
Mhm.
that's the old, what is in there now? Because this used to be the spa,
That's the
right?
yoga show. So that's the yoga
This is the
show.
yoga studio. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the yoga studio. So yeah, there's yoga studio. There's a full scale restaurant, bar. There's a spa, so you can get spa treatments while you're there. And then the remaining part of the remaining property are individual huts. And that's where you'll be staying is an individual hut. Let me see if I have a picture.
Well, and let me expand on that because people think hut and a lot of them think open air, but no, guys, this is luxury. They're concrete cubes, so they're enclosed. We have brand new windows and screens because for me, I love the jungle, but I love the jungle and all of its creatures
And I like
outside of
AC.
my
Yeah. No.
room.
Oh
I
God.
like AC. So this has AC. This has an amazing view. Each one of these faces that ocean view. We added these balconies on and each one has its own deep soak tub. So you've got this, beautiful wall of plants and a deep soak tub, and you've got coffee in your room. So for me, I'm not super social until I've had my first cup of coffee. So I did that for me. I stayed here and you had to go to the restaurant to do everything. And I was like, no, I don't want to talk to anybody yet. So we added these balconies where you can enjoy one-on-one the people that you're with. And then if you want to go up to the restaurant and the pool and be with everybody, great. But you have that opportunity to have some quiet seclusion, whether you're working on yourself or you're working on your relationship. Just amazing everywhere. I'm so excited about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, and it's important to have that privacy. And then we have an open air yoga studio right
Yes.
here that now has some kind of safety net that
It's still not
before
going to catch you
you
if
could
you
fall
go
to your death.
jumping.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, so you can come do yoga, spend time by yourself, but these are all like special things that get people to the property. And so you have to find what is that special thing that will get people to your property or get people to chatter about your property or get people to spend the extra money or get you the 4.9 rating on Airbnb or wherever you are. Like, I'm not, we're not showing you this to like just do a commercial for Araya. The property will sell itself. I don't need to do that. We have social media people to do that. I'm
Exactly.
sharing this with you so you know here are the little things you can do, like put
Create
balconies
an
on each
experience.
individual room. You know, those
Mhm.
are huge.
Yeah.
Um, my husband was never gonna go if there wasn't AC. Like, that was not a that's not an option. It's gotta be luxury. It can't just be, like, unplugged. By the
No.
way, one of the first things Deanna did when she got to the property was get Starlink and rewire the whole property for internet, so there was high-speed internet in every location, in case that's what you wanna do because this is your vacation.
Exactly.
You know, and that's the thing, so you wanna cater. Maybe you have a rule, like, I actually went to a resort once that had a rule that had no cell phones or computers in common areas, which I think is a good rule in some situations. Um, but so, you know, you can make your resorts what you wanna make them. You can make your Airbnbs what you wanna make them, but what you wanna make sure you do more than anything else is make it special. And Zuli is here. Zuli is one of our Last Life Ever mastermind members, and she's watching, and she's a real estate investor and an amazing Spanish teacher. So if you're looking to learn Spanish, you can reach out to Zuli on Facebook. She says hi. So she says, it doesn't look like we have any questions. So we're going to wrap up. But if you do have questions, do not hesitate to write them in the comments. If you're seeing this after we've gone live, no worries. Don't worry about it. You can still ask your questions. Put them in the comments below, and somebody will come back and answer those questions for you. In the meantime, you can reach out to us and come to the grand opening by going to extraordinarylifeevent.com. And if you're like, no, Jillian, I'm not coming on April 30th for the best time of my life, that's fine. I won't be offended. You can just contact Deanna at collectivedestinations.com. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your week and may all your real estate investing dreams come true. All right.